Guild Wars 2 Visions of Eternity introduces the Antiquary as the new elite specialization for Thief. And this one is pretty crazy with gambling, a Scrit ally, and new interesting stolen abilities. So in this video, I'm going to go over all of the mechanics of the Antiquary class to teach you how it works so that you can figure out how to play it. And I'll give some build ideas so that you can try it out yourself. So let's just get straight into the class mechanics. So the F1 steal of the Antiquary is called Scrit Swipe. This will send a Scrit to the target, and the Scrit will give you stolen abilities if the steal successfully occurs. So this needs to land, and also the Scrit needs to have a valid path to the target. So unlike the Spectre steal or the Deadeye steal, which are ranged steals as well, they don't need to have a valid path to the target, but the normal Thief and Daredevil steal do need to have a valid path to target because you're teleporting to the target. Now, this is not a teleport to the target, but your Scrit needs to be able to run at the target and steal from it. So it does have a bit of a trade-off there. So the stolen abilities are really the most important thing here because there are trade-offs in other places. So we're going to go over a bunch of the new stolen skills that you can get. Now baseline, you will only get 2 stolen skills and you'll have a choice between one, but with the traits here and improvisation, I get 3 of them and I can use all 3 of them. So we're going to show off how the stolen skills work, and a lot of them have some pretty good damage modifiers, a lot of CC, some mobility and sustain, so there's a lot of options. So let's just start off with the first ones that we get here. Mistburn Mortar. We can throw this and it's a fire field on the ground and it will burn enemies over time. Great for condition builds. There's a lot of burning on the Antiquary, so burning builds might crop up here and there. But yeah, the Mistburn Mortar there is going to do pretty good damage, but it's a stationary ability. Then we've got the Chak Shield. This creates a missile blocking area, which is very small, and then it will damage enemies inside that area. But it's a pretty small area, so you got to be right on top of your enemy. And this is why a lot of the abilities of the Antiquary stolen skills are going to be like this, where you set them in an area and they do damage in that area. And so CC is really important. Now you'll get CC in other places, but you also want to add CC to your build if possible. Now I've also got the Summon Cryptus turret. This will summon a turret at range and it will shoot at a single target and just do damage over time. Not really too interesting, but it has a greater effect. Now we got the Mistburn Mortar again here and the Cryptus turret again, so we'll just throw those out. And now we can show the Exalted Hammer. So this is a combo finisher leap, it's an evade, and it will heal and deal power damage. So a lot of mobility on the stolen skills here, and that is pretty much it. It's just one of the better abilities because you get sustain and you get an evade, which is nice. Now the Hollow Dancer Decoy here is a ranged ability. You can throw it at range, and it will instantly taunt the area, and then it will taunt them towards you, but then after a delay it'll do an attack, so it CCs them into its own damaging attack, although it doesn't do that much damage. So that one can be pretty good as well because you can combine it with the other stolen skills because it CCs them with the taunt. But it is a little bit weird because it taunts them towards you because you're technically applying the condition, not the Hollow Dancer, so it won't pull them towards the Hollow Dancer, it'll pull them towards you with the taunt. And we got Forged Surfer Dash. This is not an evade, I believe. You just move, you're dashing, and you will drop bombs the further you are dashing, and it will do a decent amount of damage, and it will burn. So we use this, we dash, do a bunch of bombs. It can only hit the same target, I believe, once, but you still want to dash as far as you can to get more range to get potential hits of the dash. And yeah, it does pretty good damage. Now we got the Mistburn Mortar again. Let's steal and get some more stolen skills. We've got nothing new here, so let's throw these out. And now we've got the Zephyrite Sun Crystal here. This will, and you'll notice that there are offensive and defensive artifacts. which are categorized, which is a little bit important to know for later. But the Zephyrite Sun Crystal is pretty powerful because it is a stun break, and it's an evade and a movement skill. So it'll do a little bit of damage and burning at the end. Okay, here we've got the Metal Legion Guitar. So this one's pretty crazy too. So you will channel this ability, and it will confuse enemies per pulse, and then after the third pulse, it does a stun. So it does a good amount of power damage, condition damage, and then a stun at the end, which is a pretty long stun, but it has a long cast time to it. So it's got a lot of a tell to it. So that's basically all of the stolen skills of the Antiquary. And one issue with the stolen skills that I can see with the Antiquary is that they have a lot of animations to them. Some of them don't have animations. Some of them have stun breaks or evades on them, but they can kind of have long aftercasts to them. And Thief as a class does not do so well with clunky animations like that, because it's kind of squishy, and every other skill that you use has generally quicker animations. And so a lot of the times, yes, the stolen skills are very powerful, but they also take up a lot of your animation investment, and so it's a bit of a trade-off there, and so that might be a little bit of an issue. So let's go over the traits. There's Card Swap, which gives you access to Reshuffle, and Reshuffle will allow you to, if you don't like one of the artifacts that you've gotten, you can just get a new one, and every time you reshuffle or use one of your artifacts, you'll get a condition cleanse. The issue with this, though, is that you get more artifacts potentially to choose from, but you get less to use, because if you take Prolific Plunderer, you will get an extra artifact slot instead of the reshuffle thing, and you'll also be able to use one more of the artifacts. And so in a way, that's giving you more options as well, but also you get the condition cleanse from reshuffle. So if you want condition cleanse, then go for reshuffle, but if you just want more options in general and more uses of the stolen skills, then you're going to want Prolific Plunderer. Then you've also got Split Deck, which I don't think is the best. It just gives you a more balanced kind of choice, where you get one offensive artifact and one defensive artifact every time you plunder, or what is it called, swipe. And you'll see here offensive artifact Mistburn Mortar, defensive artifact Chack Shield. So I'd always get one offensive and one defensive, but the thing is, I'm getting two offensive and one defensive this way, and I'm also getting access to one more, so I think Split Deck is just not really usable. Then Magpie's Defense gives you barrier when using your heal skill and when using your elite skill. There's an internal cooldown of 20 seconds for each one separately. And then Scoundrel's Luck is a little bit of a, we don't know exactly how this is going to work, but essentially the utility skills are backfire abilities, and there's a chance that they can fail. So when you steal or swipe, then you will basically make it so that your next utility skill does not backfire. But I don't think this is too powerful, because backfiring is not always a bad thing. Then we've got Meticulous Custodian, which just makes the effects of your stolen ability stronger. So for example, if I have the Metal Legion Guitar, you can see it increases the stun duration, the damage, and the confusion duration. If I have the Forged Surfer Dash, just more damage and burning. The blue text is what's getting improved here. So Mistburn Mortar doing more damage and burning, Chack Shield more damage and lasts longer, so it blocks more projectiles. Then the Exalted Hammer heals more and does more damage. The Cryptus Turret does more damage. The Hollow Dancer has wider range, so it can taunt more easily. And the Sun Crystal does more damage. So it's generally just more damage on your abilities, a little bit more utility on a few of them. But if you're going for a build that uses a lot of these abilities, then of course you're going to want to take this trait. Or you can go for Exhilarating Ephemera, which just increases your strike damage. I believe only strike damage, not condition damage. Otherwise it would say so, because here it says condition damage. But it's only strike damage then, and it is a stack of 10 seconds in PvE, and it can go up to a maximum of 20 every time you use an artifact skill. So if you're going for like a pure DPS build, then this is going to be your option. Enterprising Aristocrat gives you initiative whenever you use an artifact skill. 2 initiative. So if I use 3 artifacts every time I steal, I don't really need Trickery, because every time I steal with Trickery, right, that's 2 initiative. But if I miss steal, obviously I don't get artifacts, and so I don't get initiative, but the same applies if you miss steal. So you're getting a lot of initiative generation, and so it makes the Trickery trait line kind of optional in a lot of situations, because you have just so much initiative generation, and you have so many animations to use from these stolen skills anyways, that you don't need to spam your weapon skills, which use up your initiative. And then we have Prodigious Pincher. Whenever you use a total of 15 initiative, only in combat, so it'll count up over time, and there's no like internal time that you have to do this within. Just whenever you use the initiative, it'll give you a stack of the buff, and it'll keep that buff as long as you're in combat. But if you use 15 initiative, you will basically get the effect of landing steal. Now you will not get any of the traits that are applied on steal. So for example, if this triggers, I won't get improvisation to reduce my cooldowns. I won't get trickery traits to steal boons. It'll just give you another set of stolen skills. And that can be nice if you miss your steal, or say you want to use a lot of your stolen abilities. You can steal, use your skills, and then you can use initiative. And remember, you get initiative back when you use the stolen skills. So this trait kind of feeds back into itself, because the more initiative you can spend, the more stolen skills you can use, and the more stolen skills you can use, the more initiative you'll get back. So I kind of like the synergy of this trait, and it's just pretty fun because you get more stolen skills. But we also have Possessive Hoarder. Artifacts grant barrier and boons when used. So every artifact is going to give you 2000 barrier, and offensive artifacts give you resistance, defensive ones give you stability. This is actually a pretty powerful trait, although it is somewhat boring because it's just giving you barrier and boons. Stability is very powerful, and because your animations are kind of long, which makes you susceptible on the Antiquary, stability is of course going to be very valuable. And the offensive artifact giving resistance is also nice because blind is very detrimental to landing any of your skills, and that means you can preemptively use an offensive artifact with the resistance and then go in for a burst or something like that. Finally, we have Combat High. Whenever you use Grit Swipe, you will gain a buff that gives you 30% more damage and 30% more condition damage, and every 2 seconds you will lose a stack of this buff, essentially losing 3% damage. So after, I think 10 seconds, I believe, you will, after 10 seconds, because it's every 2 second interval, you will essentially lose the buff. So you are strongest when you have just stolen, and you are weakest after 10 seconds. So what you want to do with this trait is you want to not use any of your initiative, maybe use a couple of your, artifact skills to get your initiative up, and then you want to use the Grit Swipe, and then you want to use all of your initiative to do as much damage as possible so that you have as much damage modifier on those skills. And then when your damage modifier is starting to fall off, then you'll sit there and just maybe wait, get your artifacts, use those to get your initiative back up, and then wait for your next Grit Swipe, burst, and kind of repeat. So those are the traits, but we also need to look at the utility skills, which are called double edges. And double edges are very interesting because they have a gambling mechanic to them. So you can use the skill, and they have generally low cooldowns. So for example, the heal skill heals you for a little bit and cleanses a condition, and then you can see that it has the cooldown there, but I can still use it. Now, using it is a gamble because the lower the cooldown is, the lower the chance I have of getting punished with a backfire. Now the backfire is, for the heal skill, not actually bad, so the backfire just gives you a good amount of cleansing, but it essentially increases the cooldown to 20 seconds instead of 10. So what I can do is I can heal, And then so as it progresses, I have a higher chance of it not backfiring. And so I'm going to go for the heal here before it's finished, and it doesn't backfire because I have a low chance of it backfire. I'm going to use it again. High chance or medium chance, it didn't backfire. I won the gamble again. Let's go. And now it backfired. So you can see when it backfires, it has like the lightning bolt icon on it, which means it's not usable and you can't attempt to backfire something that's already been backfired. And so you can get really lucky and just be able to use your healing skill over and over and over. And for example, in situations where maybe you're about to die and you need to use your heal skill, and you will die if you don't use it, and it's like 3 seconds off cooldown. There's a lot of situations where that happens. You had like 1 second left of your cooldown. Well, you can use this and it'll probably not backfire anyways because it has a low chance of backfiring, and then you will basically just get that effect sooner, and so you get value. Now there's a chance that it'll backfire, but there's also, you know, you're gonna die anyways. So in a way, it's better to just use your heal skill when it's not off cooldown. Now I got unlucky there and it backfired anyway, so you can get punished. But in a way, like, there's a lot of risk and reward to you deciding when to use your cooldown. And say, for example, like I have a little bit of a window before I need to go in with my burst or whatever, and I have like, you know, a window of time that I can use something, and maybe my heal skill isn't off cooldown and I just need to fit something into that animation. I can get a little bit of extra healing and I'll get some barrier from using my heal skill, and I have very minimal risk as well. And so there is a lot of play to the backfiring there. But also you kind of just want to backfire this because it also gives you a decent amount of healing and condition cleansing. So the heal skill is not like the best example of risk, because you generally just want to use it if you have your health is less than full, then you generally just want to use your heal skill here. But let's look at the other backfires. So Emergency Jade Shield is a stun break that gives you barrier. Very simple, but when you backfire, it will deal 7,000 damage to you, and it will also damage enemies around you. It's still a stun break, but you have a high risk of basically killing yourself with this, right? So 15-second cooldown in PvE. I believe it's a pretty low cooldown in PvP as well. And say, for example, you're in a situation where you get stun locked and you really need your stun break right now. We'll just use it, and look, I didn't get a backfire there, so I got the barrier early, I got the stun break early, and I didn't get punished. But also, what if you're in a situation where you are maybe being chased by 7 people and you get stunned, and you have more than 7,000 health, but if you get stunned, you'll take definitely more than 7,000 health if 7 people are chasing you. So in that case, 7,000 health is worth not being stunned, because you'll also gain the barrier, right? I'll do a ton of damage to myself, and some of that damage will be mitigated by the fact that I had barrier on me, but I'll essentially be able to use my dodges again. I'll be able to use my abilities to get out of damage or risky situation again. And so in that case, the stun break is worth more than 7,000 of my health, and it's worth the risk. Now, if I get, for example, stunned 2 times in a row, because essentially, right, if this is on cooldown, then you just broke a stun. So someone has to stun you 2 times in succession for you to have to really risk the cooldown here. So I think this is a really strong ability in PvP modes, because it's just such a low cooldown, and it essentially means that you're pretty much immune to CC as long as you can risk a little bit of your health. Now I lost it there, so I took some health, and I believe it's a 50% chance to backfire if it's half cooldown. I'm not sure on the exact chance of the backfire, but I'm pretty sure it's just 1% per percent cooldown. Now the next skill is Stone Summit Cannon. This is a 900 range ground targeted ability that will shoot bombs from the air, do a good amount of damage and burning damage as well. And if you backfire it, it will summon a Scrit that will... Okay, no, I didn't backfire there. I got lucky. So it'll summon this, and the script will basically blow up on you, and you will take damage. You cannot grief your allies with this, so you can only hurt yourself, but you can hurt you can hurt enemies with the backfire. So you can do a good burst of damage with this, and you can still evade the damage. So for example, there's a lot of options with Antiquary. So what if I use the Stone Summit Cannon, and then maybe I get the stun here, then I can do the whatever this is called again, and while they're stunned, they can get hit by the backfire of the script, because they can't move out while they're stunned, but I can. And I believe that the backfire of the Stone Summit Cannon cannot be evade. You can't dodge the animation, you have to actually move out of range. So if I evade, I still get hit here. So you have to move out of range, you cannot just dodge or block it. I don't know if you can block it, to be honest. We could test that, but I feel like you just can't block it. So that is a pretty interesting skill. It does a lot of damage, and it's quite low cooldown as well. So great DPS, and if you backfire it, it goes on the same cooldown, right? So if you're in a PvE situation where you have your allies healing you, and the damage that you take from this is not really going to be relevant because you'll get healed anyways, you might as well just use it and then immediately backfire it, because it's the same cooldown when you backfire and just more damage. So it's like you have 2 ammo charge of the skill if you can get healed as a result. Now, it does quite a bit of damage, so you have to be careful, but I like the risk reward of that potential there. So yeah, very interesting decision making. Now the Inquest portal will port you to the target and do a bit of an attack, and then we'll put vulnerability on the target. Now this is not an instant cast skill, so you cannot use it while using other skills, and the backfire will knock you down if you fail, right? So it will essentially, it also says it has Defiance Break, so I'm not sure what that means. Is it CCing the enemy? Or I don't know what that means, but basically what you can do with this is, say you're running Blinding Powder. Let's put on Blinding Powder, and we can use the portal, or if you're using Emergency Jade Shield, right, you could stun break that. But if you're using Backstab, maybe like a dagger build, you can go in and backfire and then immediately stun break with the Blinding Powder and then backstab. And so it's just like, it's a worse steel backstab, right, because you have to use 2 of your utilities for it, but you don't use your steel skill, obviously. But yeah, I think that the Inquest portal is not good, just because the fact that you have to be in range of the target to use it, unlike Signet of the Infiltrator Signet, which you can use at any range and it'll just port you toward the target. Now, the cooldown of the Inquest portal is going to be shorter probably than Infiltrator in PvP modes, but I feel that, yeah, the lack of utility and the potential of knocking yourself down and forcing you to use a stun break doesn't really give you too much of a benefit if you're going for that risk reward thing there. So there is that. Now the final utility before we get to the elite is the Canuck coin toss. So this is also interesting. So when you use it, it will do a quick animation and it will flip 3 coins. Those coins will either be heads or tails. If you get heads, then you gain initiative and convert conditions on yourself to boons. So you gain one convert and 2 initiative. If you get tails, then you gain initiative and remove conditions on yourself. So essentially they do the same effect, but if you get heads, then you get a little bit better of an effect. So tails removes a condition, heads converts it to a boon, tails gives you 1 initiative, heads gives you 2 initiative. Now you can also use this when it's on cooldown to backfire, and backfire will still give you 3 coin tosses, but instead of giving you a boon conversion from condition to boons, it will convert a boon into a condition. So in some cases, the backfire of this skill is not even relevant. So like, what if you have no boons on you and you just want more initiative? Say I'm running like a build. Well, okay, so if I'm using a pistol build, then I don't want to lose might. But say I'm not using a build that uses any conditions for whatever reason, maybe a world versus world build or a PvP build that just doesn't use boons. I can use the Connaught coin to gain initiative. Okay, this is a bad example because the pistol has just infinite initiative. But let's just say I don't have boons here and I want more initiative. I can use a Connaught coin toss. It gives me initiative, and I want more initiative, so I'm going to use it again. It just converted my conditions to boon, and it blinded me there. But I just gained those initiative basically for free if I didn't lose any boons as a result. And it goes on the same cooldown because it's a 15-second cooldown. So if I get tails and I don't get anything out of it, and I just get boons converted to conditions, but if I get heads, then I can get 3 initiative. So it's a little bit of a risk there to get maybe potentially 3 initiative or 0 initiative. But if there's no trade-off to it and you have no boons on you, you might as well go for it, right? So a lot of decision making there. And finally, the Scrit Scuffle. This, you will create an area of effect on the ground which does nothing except give you stolen abilities, and you can only use one of the stolen abilities per time that it pulses, which is every 3 seconds. But also, you will have a chance to get an unstable Scrit Bomb, which you do not want to use. So if I use the Scrit Bomb, it knocks you back and does damage to you. So don't use that. So you want to spam the skills out, but you don't want to be using the bomb. So you kind of have to pay attention and be mindful about which skill you use, because if you bomb yourself, then that can be very bad. I think that's a very weird design choice to put that trade-off in there, because yeah, it's kind of funny, but there's already enough trade-offs to using the stolen abilities, and you're using your elite skill, so why does your elite skill need that big of a trade-off? So I think they might remove that later on, because it seems a bit underpowered for you to just lose one of your skills or to potentially backfire for no apparent like benefit, right? It's not actually a backfire, because a backfire has a chance to succeed. That has no chance to succeed. It's just failure. I mean, I guess your chance to succeed is interpreted by you using one of the other abilities, but that's just a mechanical error of you pressing the backfire. So yeah, the Scrit Scuffle is kind of interesting. You have to stay in the area, so I think it's generally better to use it in melee range so that you can, like, for example, if I'm fighting in an area and I use one of the stolen abilities that moves me out of range, well then I don't get more of the Scrit Scuffle benefits. So you either want to use the ranged abilities while you are in the Scrit Scuffle, or you want to use the Scrit Scuffle on the enemy so that you don't have to lose the effect when you use the mobility skills. And we got 3 Hollow Dancers in a row there, so they're just taunted forever. 4 in a row? Okay. 5 in a row? 6 in a... Wait, this is insane RNG. 6 Hollow Dancers in a row. That's kind of crazy. But yeah, that is the Scrit Scuffle. I think it's not that powerful, but it is a decently low cooldown. And if you're using a build that doesn't have Prodigious Pincher in it, and you want to use more of the stolen abilities, then I think the Scrit Scuffle is good. But if you are using Prodigious Pincher, then I don't think you want to use Scrit Scuffle. So if you're using Prodigious Pincher, I'd probably use another elite skill. But yeah, there's some decent synergy with using the skills there, right? Because you can get initiative whenever you use them. You can also take Possessive Hoarder, which can give you barriers, so it can be quite tanky while the Scrit Scuffle's going off. So you could be in the Scrit Scuffle, and sure, you're a little bit vulnerable while you're standing in this area, but you're just constantly using the stolen skills, which is giving you the barrier and boons, so you can kind of tank up and just stand in your Scrit Scuffle and just use abilities if you're taking this trade, of course. And yeah, that's pretty much the mechanics of the Antiquary. It has some very interesting decisions that you can make, but there's quite a bit of trade-off to them. And so I think that it's a decent design. It maybe needs a little bit of a buff because the animations can be easy for enemies to play around. And so maybe they need to be a little bit faster animation so that there's less counterplay for people. Like for example, that skill right there, there's quite a bit of an aftercast to it. And the Hollow Dancer is not bad at all for sure. This is not bad. The Mistburn Mortar is not bad either. The Forge Surfer Dash isn't terrible, but it is quite a long animation to get locked in. The Metal Legion Guitar is a bit of a animation as well, but it does really good damage, so it's worth it, I think, if you can afford to sit there and use that skill. But like, as you can see, the thematic is, it's a bit of a clunkier thief specialization than pretty much any other one, like more clunky than Spectre, and Spectre is decently clunky. Deadeye is much more smooth, and Daredevil is just butter, right? So if you're a thief main, you maybe aren't going to be used to this, but it's also something entirely new and interesting, and I think that's what they need to kind of go for with elite specializations. So here's the idea I have for a PvE open world Antiquary. I'm using Pistol Whip as my main damage source. So we have a lot of CC already on Antiquary, but we've got even more. And so I'm going for the Claw Relic. A mix of Dragon and Marauder stats, because we're going to get a decent amount of crit chance. So we only need maybe like 62. And we get to 87 with Fury, which we're going to have permanently from crit strikes. And the extra crit chance here from Twin Fangs. So we'll have around 100% there. And just all the damage modifiers in crit strikes. I've got acrobatics as well. Well, let's go over so I have Scholar runes as well. Celerity Sigil on the sword and force, and then a pistol with blood sigil. So I can swap to pistol if I need range damage. And then I've got acrobatics with condition cleanse on dodge. I have the swiftness here is really important because I basically don't get any movement speed buffs on Antiquary like I would on Daredevil, or even the Trickery trait line would give me some swiftness too, but I don't need Trickery because what we're going to be doing is using the artifacts, and the artifacts will be able to use a lot of those. And then acrobatics, which is going to give me condition cleanse on dodge, swiftness on dodge, which is important because you don't get easy access to movement speed buffs on Antiquary. It's not like Daredevil or even the Trickery trait line, which you can get swiftness easily, and we're not using Trickery because we don't need the extra initiative, because we're going to get our initiative from the artifact skills. And we have a lot of the artifacts because we're going to be using Prolific Plunderer and the Prodigious Pincher. And we're going to be using our initiative really fast because Pistol Whip is a pretty initiative hungry skill. Costs 5 initiative, and it will evade, so it will trigger Swindler's Equilibrium, which gives us power, and will reduce the recharge of our swipe. So we don't need Trickery if we have this to reduce our swipe cooldown, so we'll get more stolen abilities there. We do not have improvisation, so we don't have access to 3 uses of the stolen abilities every time, but there's generally one that's just not the best every time. So, and the thing is, we want to optimize our animations because we have so many animations to use, so it's nice to only have to use 2 out of 3 every time because we get to use the best and not waste a third one trying to overuse the animation. So we're going to steal here, and my utility skills are all instant cast because even the heal skill is passive healing because I have so many animations, right? So I don't want to be spending more time than necessary. I want to be spamming Pistol Whip. I don't want to be using any other skills. So now here we've got decisions that we can make. The Chak Shield is an instant cast, so we can use that while we are casting the Metal Legion guitar, which is a good stun. We got the Hollow thing, which is nice. This is a Condi thing, so not really the best on my build, so I'll go for the Metal Legion guitar. Metal Legion guitar is also Condi, but it's also power, so it's whatever. It's also kind of funny, but we also have to kind of manage our prodigious pincher here, because the first time I use it, any skill here, it will trigger, so we don't want to use that. And also, whenever we use a movement skill, it will trigger the fluid strikes here, and there's a lot of movement skills on the stolen skills. So I mean, we can trigger that with the sword 2, but we're generally going to be using pistol whip, so we kind of rely on our stolen skills here to trigger that, right? We don't have anything here, but we can keep CCing. Evade this with, no, we didn't have that. Okay, dodging will remove this. Let's use the surfer. We need to stun this guy. Is a CC bar. Okay, let's use the Cryptus turret, which is the F2 here, because that's the most single target damage. Pistol whip to evade. And just use all of our initiative. Now we can use the movement skill here, and the movement skill here. Just for more fun, I guess. I guess the Mistburn Mortar would not be the best idea there anyways. And we can just constantly use our haste off cooldown. So what I did there was I accidentally was not paying attention to the prodigious pincher, and I stole before using it. So try to steal after the prodigious pincher triggers. Stun break this, and I'm going to use the AoE here because the Cryptus turret is more single target. Let's use the Dagger Storm while we have Assassin Signet up. Okay, let's get the AoE, and I'll just use the turret here because I don't think the Chak Shield is too useful. Let's go through these guys with the bombs. They do quite a bit of damage. Chak Shield here because it's instant cast. CC this guy. I'm going to have to stun break and dodge to cleanse. Yeah, so stealing into Pistol Whip is generally a bad idea because then you're going to trigger Prodigious Pilfer if you're not paying attention to what your stack is currently at. But yeah, we're just doing tons of pulsing damage there. The stolen skills. Let's heal up because I didn't need to do that. Stun break here. Dodge to remove that. And then we'll use this. The thing is, you kind of have to expect which stolen skills you're going to get. And so it feels natural to steal. And then while I'm in the pistol whip animation, kind of decide which one I want to use. But yeah, then you got to pay attention to the prodigious pilfer as well, or pincher. The names on these utility or the traits and all that are pretty ridiculous. All right, we'll do this in the turret. Turret's doing decent damage over time. I've got high stacks, so let's steal and use this early on. We want to use the turret because it has 4,000 damage. Then we're going to get more skills. Let's CC into another CC. A lot of CC going on. And then I'm going to stun lock it again with the pistol whip. And this guy, I'm going to dodge. Okay, we got the evade from the Zephyrite crystal. I'm going to move over here. Port back in with the sword 2. Let's just barrier for no reason. Evade that with my pistol whip. And I'm just going to get quickness here so that my guitar is faster with its stun. And I'll use the Hollow Dancer because it does a decent amount of damage still, even though we don't need the CC at all because the mob is already pretty much broken. Use the Hollow again, and we'll use the Chak Shield because there's no animation. Steal. And we'll use this to get mobility. We'll go in this direction, maybe use sword 2. And you can keep your stolen abilities for the next fight, so it's always nice to get one and then precast at the next fight. So we'll do that here. The turret is actually not in range. Okay, let's stun break and immediately dagger storm. Get CC'd here. Evade with pistol whip. And well, I didn't surf very far there, did I? Dodge to remove this burn. Stun break. I think I want to use the mortar into the... Well, that didn't work out. Got stunned. Yeah, these guys just spam stuns on you. I'm going to dodge out of this. Leap away, and I'm going to use the mortar so that we can kind of bait their attacks at me. Dodge this. Evade. We're getting initiative every time we evade, right? So get a lot of sustain from this. Quickness. Spam pistol whip. And yeah, you kind of get the idea, right? So you mostly want to spam pistol whip. And then recharge your initiative to use more pistol whip by using the stolen skills. And if you wanted to go for more damage instead of... Well, I guess you get initiative, which kind of gives you damage here, but I feel like the sustain is pretty good on acrobatics, while also the damage is also pretty good. So I feel like if you wanted to go deadly arts with improvisation, that would be less sustain, but maybe a little bit more damage. I feel like this is enough damage. Now in PvP, you might wonder what the role of an Antiquary is, because it's not as fast to be a roamer playstyle like a Daredevil or a Deadeye. It's not as tanky to support its team fights or its allies as a support, or a team fighter role like as a Spectre. So what does an Antiquary do? Well, to me, I think it's just a jack of all trades, which means it's really not the best at anything. And sure, you could say that that just means it's bad, but I think it has some potential for some fun builds. And here's my idea. So I go for the Relic of the Citadel. This is just a meme, because when I use Scrit Scuffle, I want to stun them or whatever. But you could go any other relic there. But I have Traveler Rune, because I want some movement speed. I'm not going for acrobatics on this build. I go Carrying Amulet, because there's a lot of condition synergy, and the scaling of crit is not going to be as high in PvP, unless you go for a full glass build, but the clunkiness of some of the animations here I don't think allows for that. So you got to go for a more survivable build. And the sigils, yeah, I didn't really think too much about the sigils here. The weapons is more important. I went for an Axe Dagger. Axe is a very high damage weapon, but it has a very short window of time where your damage occurs. So the CC from the Antiquary is really important to combine or combo to allow you to land your big axe bursts. Otherwise, you're kind of a sitting duck. So you use the Axe 3 to land your big damage. And then we've also got the Spear, which does a good amount of damage too with the abilities, because some of them do lifesteal. Like the lifesteal here doesn't scale with crit. So you're doing pretty good power or lifesteal damage, even with Carrying Amulet. So you can just spam the 3, or you can do conditions with the 2 skill, even though it's got less utility to it, because the 3 skill gives weakness and stealth and removes boons, and gives you the ability to essentially, what we've got here is we've got Rending Shade. So we steal boons whenever we use the 3 skill, and then we gain stealth, which allows us to use the sneak attack to remove even more boons. And so we can kind of be a nice support to our team in team fights by focusing a target, because we have steal, so we can remove stability from our target, and then we can further remove boons from them. So it's decent for focusing targets and getting burst off with the axe combo, but also it can play sort of a duelist role, because we have artifacts giving us barrier, and defensive artifacts give stability, and offensive ones give the resistance. So that's a decent trait. And we just have, so we don't have the deadly arts traits here either, so we don't have improvisation, but we're going to be able to use 2 artifacts because of Prolific Plunderer. And so every time we use an artifact, we get initiative, we get barrier, and that is just going to help us be a little bit more survivable, because, well, as I said, you're not that tanky. Also, the heal skill gives you barrier, the elite skill gives you barrier, and yeah, we get our cleanse from going in stealth, and we get venom when going in stealth as well. So we get a lot of value from the Spear 3 combo. Another thing is I have the Stone Summit Cannon. So if we're fighting on a node, I can use the Stone Summit Cannon to do big damage in these team fights, because the burning is pretty much the same value as in PvE. Also, if I use the backfire of the Stone Summit Cannon, I can just throw that on a node, and I can jump off the node, and it still does damage. So it is pretty applicable in PvP too, because the backfire is avoidable. So great stuff there. And the Scrit Scuffle is still very usable in PvP, simply because I'm not using Prodigious Pincher, and I'm not using like a lot of other stuff. So in situations where I really want to use a lot of stolen skills, I can, but in other situations, I don't overload my animations because I really want to be spamming the spear skills or setting up my axe burst, with the axe 2 into the 3. Right, so here's a PvP match in Unranked. We're in the beta. And immediately I'm going to throw out the axe 2 to just preemptively do a burst if they try to fight us in the courtyard here, but they go up the ledge. I use the axe 3 to port up. So there are no ports on this class otherwise. So I'm not using sword, I'm not using like short bow, and so I use the axe 3 to sort of like chase targets. Even if I don't have my axe 2 set up, I can just axe 3 on them, and that'll allow me to kind of like gap close to get closer. And it is an evade as well. I've got the Shadow Arts traits, so I do want to go in stealth a lot, and using the axe burst doesn't necessarily give me a lot of stealth, but I can use the dagger 5, and I really want to be using the spear 3 is kind of like my main damage, and then I'll finish them off with the axe. But this, I believe this is a luminary. They jump on me with their burst, so I stun break with my blinding powder. The reason I go blinding powder instead of the jade shield thing here is because stealth gives me cleansing, and stealth gives me a lot of other benefits. So just because I'm Shadow Arts, I go for blinding powder instead. I use a Scrit Scuffle here, and I'm just kind of like free casting from range. I can put down I used the guitar there, and I got the stun, and I landed my axe burst there. Luminaries are kind of tanky though, so I have to be safe here. I use the spear 3, but it misses, so I do not get the stealth. I have to be careful, and I'm just going to disengage. I use the 3 to get stealth, and another one of them comes in. I go in for the lifesteal from the stolen ability. I disengage with the forged surf, and now I've got stealth from blinding powder. I tried to remove their shield, but it did not happen fast enough. I see their Antiquary is here, so I'm going to go for a little bit of a CC combo, maybe. I put out the 2 axe 2s, and then axe 3 to finish them off. I have the stun break there from the thing. I'm going to put down the stone summit to cleave the down body, but there's a lot of pressure on me, and I can't cleave. So I'm going to have to use the 5 skill to block, and the 3 skill to get some stealth. And the 5 skill in Spear is also pretty nice because Antiquary doesn't have a lot of active defenses, and so you can just swap to the Spear and start using the 5 to block skills if you're ever in danger. So I like the Spear for that reason as well. It's just a lot of versatility, and I believe that the Antiquary fits the Spear because they're both very versatile classes and they kind of fit the same role. I want to capture this node before I help my ally, and I can precast the axe 2 while I'm waiting there. I get stunned here by, I believe, their Antiquary, and it looks like we're 1v3 here. And okay, one of our luminaries jumps in. I'm going to precast my axe burst. It gets the immobilize, so I'm going to use the Stone Summit cannon while they're immobilized, and I could probably combo that better. I'm not insanely, I don't have great muscle memory on this class, so I could have done that combo better, right? I could have done the Stone Summit, and then I could have immobilized while the Stone Summit is like precasting, but yeah. I'm using the stone skills here. I have a bunch of conditions on me, so I need to get out of here. I'm going to cleanse with my heal skill and the Shadow Return, put the Stone Summit behind me if they're chasing, and I just need to get out because I got bursted. I need to resustain, and we don't own any nodes on this map. Maybe we can be winning home, but yeah, I just need to get out of here, so I'm going to use the Spear. I can use the 5 skill to block 3 attacks and heal, but they're not hitting me. I'm going to just keep using the 3 skill to get movement. I use the Stone Summit cannon behind me. You can see the burning it's doing. I did pretty much 40% of their health with the full duration of the burning of the Stone Summit, so if they don't cleanse that, it does good damage. Here's the Mistburn Mortar in case they want to contest me on node. They don't. I put down the Scrit Scuffle. Sorry, I'm speaking here quite a bit because all of these things have really weird names to them, but yeah, I'm just using the Spear 3. I canceled the Spear 3 because I knew it was going to miss, and I wanted to really use it again to get the burst. Axe 2 with that was the hollow to get the taunt into my axe burst, but they just got away at the last second. I used the Zephyrite Sun Crystal there to get movement, to get the res on my ally there with the Blinding Powder. And I used the Stone Summit, so I don't believe I'm really too used to this, but I could use the Stone Summit there and backfire it if I wanted to. But yeah, I didn't, so we're going to cap this node while we're cleaving with the axe. And looking at the map, it looks like we're kind of losing the rest of the map too, so I kind of want to start doing more fights, perhaps. I get feared, and they're going to go for a res, so I use the Stone Summit. I believe I should use the Stone Summit here. I did not use the Stone Summit, because yeah, my reactions are a little bit slow, because I'm not used to this class, but I should have Stone Summited it earlier. Should have done that immediately, because it would just do way more damage, and then I should have backfired it. So yeah, once again, a little bit of mistakes being made, but I'm not the... This is what, maybe my 4th game playing as Antiquary, and maybe my 1st or 2nd playing this exact build of it. So yeah, I want to use that Stone Summit cannon a little bit more, and I put down this Grit Scruffle here. Use the Stolen ability. I have the hammer there. I choose the hammer. Here I'm going to use I used the Surf, but I used a very small animation there. We get the guitar here for a stun, but I got dazed. I did not use any of the bombs, luckily. I stole there, but it got blocked. We still get the boon removal, and there's some like blind well down. Now we need to use the Stone Summit cannon here, but I'm just gonna go for a stealth stomp instead. But they rally fast, and I'm unable to do anything here. So we're gonna probably chase this Reaper with the Axe 3. I Stone Summit cannon now, but I should have used it earlier. And we can just steal to this down body so I can precast those skills for the next fight. I used the hammer, the Exalted Hammer, for some mobility. And it should be using the Hollow here, yeah, for the... There it is, the taunt goes out. And we're able to CC this Luminary because of that. So yeah, a lot of CC on this build. And, well, there's a lot of CC in just Antiquary, not necessarily this build. We got our Axe 2 precasted. Let's go for the Axe 3 to finish them off. Steal to them. And I can... Yeah, I'll just save my stolen skills. I could go for a stomp here with the Dagger 5, I should probably do, to get stealth, to stealth stomp. I used a hollow on the down body for some reason. I know that does 0 damage in PvP for some reason, but I don't know why I did that. Yeah, our team is starting to win fights though now, and we're just gonna press 1 on this Antiquary to finish them off. I'm just looking to see if anyone's rotating into home, which no one is. So I'm going to take this little pathway towards far node or the middle area. The Reaper is respawning, so I could precast my Axe 2 to get the Axe 3, and I want to steal to them, use the Axe 3, but they're going to dodge it right as you expect. The Hollow goes down, so they're taunted, but they get a cleanse from their Spectral Walk there. I'm in stealth, so I don't really need to stun break this, but I do it anyways. And now I've got the script. I used the Grit Scuffle, but didn't really need to do that there. So I guess here we're just going to use the movement from the Zephyrite Sun Crystal and finish them off with the Axe 3. So yeah, in a lot of these situations, I'm not playing the best for sure, but you can see how there's definitely potential. It's not like the best build. I'd probably be more effective on a Deadeye, but a Deadeye would have less sustain. So, I mean, and it's also very projectile based. This is also projectile based, but not entirely, because I can always swap to the spear and spam the spear 3, and I have a lot of boon removal. So it's like, you know, I said jack of all trades and a master of none. And being a master of none means that in some situations you'll be not very effective, but in other situations where other builds would not be very effective, you would be more effective. So, and that's kind of nice for PvP, right? Because you can't control your situations all the time. Although thieves have the mobility to sometimes do that. I use the Mistburn Mortar on the node, and that forces their Luminary off the node. It looks like they have a support Luminary. And we're actually down 80 points, and the game is almost over, so we really need to win a fight here, but there's 3 of them. I evade with the Spear 3 and block the Luminary's burst with the Spear 5, and I'm still taking a lot of damage. I have no idea how they're using their attack there that fast. They have quickness or something, but my god, that luminary was popping off. I'm just going to try to kite here and maybe cleanse conditions. I don't have any condition cleanse unless I can stealth. There I used the burning, and they kind of took damage while they were chasing me. I steal to this so I can get the... I have the Zephyrite Sun Crystal, so I can use that to get out of danger if I need to. I use a Scrit Scuffle just to give myself a some barrier from the traits. I'm going to block here maybe if I can, and we're just barely able to survive due to the barrier. And I'm just going to make my way into mid. Surviving there was pretty huge because we're going to lose the game if we lose any momentum at this point. We're just going to lose. It's an unranked match, but it's a pretty competitive one, so playing to win is kind of fun. And I'm just going to full cap this node, because even though we may lose home as a result of it, we kind of need points. So maybe this is not the best idea because now we're dying at home. Maybe I should have helped them at home. But since we're losing that, I think I'll just go to far, and I will maybe try to get the kill on this luminary. Their soul beast is kind of low though. I want to go for the nodes though because the game is so close to being over. I have the guitar, so I can go for the CC here. I'm going to precast it. Here it is. We get the stun. I did not get the stun. They're just barely out of range. But we killed them with the lifesteal of the Spear 3, which, as I said, does a lot of damage regardless of whether you're a power build or not. I mean, we have Carrion, which still has power scaling. You need power scaling, but not crit scaling, in other words. So we ended up holding mid still somehow. We lost home, as expected. And this Antiquary here, we can probably just run them down with our Axe Burst because they're outnumbered. It misses, sort of, but we get the Immobilize from our... I believe, yeah, that's a Luminary with me. And we get the other Antiquary downed. Now, it looks like we have a Amalgam on home, which is the NG class. They just decap that. Good play by them. We don't actually need to win points. We need to just prevent them from getting points, though it looks like they're starting to cap it now. So I think someone's going to go back there and prevent that full cap, and we're just going to try to get kills here. So I'm using my axe to chase kills. I have the Zephyrite Sun Crystal, so I could use that to get mobility to go to far. And I'm going to just save it to... Okay, so I'm going to precast the guitar into the Shadow Step there to try to stun them, but they dodge it. I could have made that a cleaner combo, but I'm not really familiar with the animations here. I block their fear with Spear 5, and I dodge their stun as well. I steal, and I get the guitar again. We get the stun, and then that allows me to get my Spear 3 off and finish them off. They cap the node while I'm in stealth, but we're pretty much going to win the game off of this. So yeah, that's the Antiquary. It has a lot of So yeah, that's the Antiquary. It has a lot of improvisation with how you use the skills, and there's a bit of diversity and versatility in how you actually play it, which can be really fun. And my damage wasn't amazing. I had 21% of the team's damage, which is just doing my part, but I had a lot of potential on the map by stalling enemies, CCing from my allies. So yeah, I think it has potential. Maybe could use some buffs and animations a little bit faster, but otherwise, I think it's a pretty fun spec. So if you guys want to see more content, of course, subscribe, like the video, let me know what you think of the Antiquary. Is it a broken class? Is it useless? And I'll see if I can get more videos out on all of the elite specs before the beta ends. And I will see you all next time.